मन के जो तीरथ हैं धाम मन भाए हैं, जिसने दिया है एक पल में सदियों को थाम। बोलो बोलो हाँ बोलो जय जय सिया राम। बोलो बोलो हाँ बोलो जय जय सिया राम। बोलो बोलो हाँ बोलो जय जय सिया राम। बोलो बोलो हाँ बोलो जय जय सिया राम. A big hello and a warm welcome to all of you amazing and beautiful people out there. Welcome to my channel, The Twin Flame Union. And in this channeling session, I would be continuing yesterday's channeling session, which I could not complete at that point in time, which is titled as, because this is the part 2, as Together Forever. And when I had ended the channeling session, as in paused over there, I was talking about how divine feminines, when they go into 5D union, they start having a ball. They start having such a good time. They've never actually felt like this in their entire life till they were, because in the childhood, whatever happened to you, you don't remember it at all, right? You remember things in bits and pieces, and after 5D union, many of the memories also come back. Like certain places where very deep trauma was hidden. Like you were such a small child and you may not even remember things, but you were told things by other people. So like your parents had told you, your mother, your father, or someone who raised you had told you that you used to do this or you used to do that. You used to say this. So suddenly it clicks to you that, okay, maybe this treatment or this sentence or this situation which was told to me by other people, that did not go well with my authentic nature. And then you release it. Like imagine the work is that deep. Sometimes you even get visions. And I don't want to get very deep into this because there are a lot of things that happen to you when you get into 5D union, after 5D union, and hopefully I would keep sharing whatever universe wants me to relay. I will keep sharing it, whatever I'm guided to share with you all. But I can definitely say that surrender and illumination is the best thing that can happen to a divine feminine. And when she reaches the 5D union, she feels like, wow, what the hell was I doing for the rest of my life that went by? How come I did not know this? How come I did not realize it? I don't believe this. This is real. This is possible. I can be happy. And I can be happy like this, like totally independent. And you will be so, like divine feminines are so emotionally strong at that point in time because they let go all of their codependencies issues by that time. And yes, it's not like because you will be reaching harmonization after that only. But according to me, personally, if you ask me, because surrender and illumination is full of epiphanies. By the time you're harmonizing, it's very natural because you're in a flow of life and you understand life better. You also understand that, you are nature itself. So, and plus you are doing God's work here or you're doing ascension work here. So you really don't have to really think and control anything. Everything is going to happen the way it is meant to happen. And as I've been saying that in the morning, something really upsetting can happen to you, which can totally, take you off base. But by evening or by night, you will completely understand why that happened. Because imagine in one day, you will do so much journey. So she is very thankful to the divine masculine. By now, she's extremely thankful to the divine masculine. She cannot thank him enough. Literally. All the divine feminines, when they reach this place, when they reach end of surrender and beginning of illumination, they are thanking the masculine so much that, oh my God, thank you so much, a person like you came into my life. Thank you so much you did this to me. Thank you so much you hurt me so much. And she laughs at all the things. There is anger. Till the time there is anger, there is still some surrender work to be done. But then she doesn't have the time. She doesn't have the energy to actually waste on those thoughts. She realizes the more quickly I leave a thought, the more quickly I move on. If I'm not able to move on, then the best way is to talk to God. cry in front of God or seek for some advice, some help, somebody who can uplift me or somebody who can give me correct solution at that point in time. Somebody who can say nice things to me, because in the past, what was happening with the feminines is that every time they would reach a certain place where they could grow, they would talk to the wrong people. Most importantly, they would not think of God. They will not think of any guides or masters at that time. They would just keep struggling on their own, and because of which they will constantly keep interacting with the wrong type of human beings. And those people are not capable enough, they are not equipped enough to understand their pain, so they will sort of give them vibes that even if they listen, even if they go like but they will not give you those loving vibes, those vibes where make you burst into tears or make you relax or make you feel like, okay, fine, I can do this on my own, I can pull it off. When you talk to God, many a times it happens that God only provides you a solution, like you're very inspired to take that solution. In perfect divine timing, everything is given to you, and then you're like, oh, it makes sense, finally makes sense. So the concept of together forever is basically what you see in the three-dimensional reality is a very false concept. Now let me explain to you why. The feeling of this whole thing, together forever, but now you need to understand why you are trapped in a wrong type of together forever. Because what they teach people is, they teach people when you love someone, you love them forever and ever and ever. You are together till death do us apart. These are the things they say. If it's true love, then we are going to love each other till death do us apart. But honestly, true love is eternal. And death is also a temporary phase of the life cycle for those who have not fully ascended, right? So it can't be death any which way. So if you love someone, like I remember when I was a little girl, my grandmother had passed over. My grandfather was still alive, and he was the first person actually who told me what the word soulmate is. Like I never knew or heard the word soulmate. He was a very dedicated husband, very loyal, committed, dedicated husband. Throughout his life, I've been told that my grandfather, it is my paternal grandfather I'm talking about, they both loved each other and they had the best understanding, and they were very mild, gentle type of people. So it had been few years after his wife's death, who was my grandmother, and with whom I hadn't spent so much time, to be honest. I was very little, maybe just 2 or 3 years old when she passed over, so I don't remember much. But he used to keep telling me that, one day when I die, your grandmother will come to fetch my soul. When I'm leaving from this planet, when I die, I'm just waiting for that day. And the interesting part was that what I saw in him is that he was never scared about death or scared of death. So he was always like very relaxed about it, and he would say, I just want to meet my wife again. I'm going to meet her soon. Whenever the time comes, she's definitely going to come to get my soul. It will be so nice, so peaceful to see her again in the form of a soul. And I would ask my grandfather, why would she do that? Like, why does she have to come to get your soul? And he would say that because she's my soulmate, and in my next life, I'm going to make sure that I am the wife and she plays my husband's role. Because you know what, in this life, she went away before me and I'm waiting and I'm here. But he was like, but I'm happy because I'm getting to live with my grandchildren and my son and, all my other family members. It's all right. If she would have been here, it would have been better, but whatever, it was destined that way. So then I asked him, what is this word soulmate? What does it mean? So he would say, it is the friend of your soul. Basically, when two souls are friends, they are soulmates. So his explanation, and then he would say for my grandmother, that she was my very good friend, my best friend, my wife, my everything. She was one of the person I was closest to. Now, back in those days, in the time of my grandparents, seriously, husband and wife relationship was like that because they got married when they were literally children. Back then, they used to get married at a very young age. And then the girl would only be sent to her husband's house when she would reach puberty. So they would do like a child marriage sort of a thing. I know it sounds weird, but how he explained to me, it sounded perfect. So they got married in a ceremony, and then she did not come with him at that time. And when she reached puberty at a certain age, the parents were like, okay, now the girl is ready. And that's when, he fetched his bride, his wife, and he continued to study. Both of them continued to study. He even did double MA in English. So you can imagine, after the marriage, so many years, he was going to college, he was working, all those things kept happening. So love relationship, maybe, they were very lucky to be in a relationship like that. But most relationships used to be like that back then. Like the husband, wife would marry very young and they would spend the whole life with each other, till they grow old. Now, this is maybe a type of union which was a positive union for me, because if I think about lovers, my grandfather is one person, my paternal grandfather is one person who always comes to my mind, because he was very dedicated. It's not necessary that all the other men were like this, like the same. Mostly they were, but I'm not sure because I can't talk about other people. So this soulmate concept was into my head at that time, and I would keep wondering about it. And I would think that, so do I have a soulmate too? And why does a soul need a mate? Like, what's the whole point, And because they used to say that soul, like when we were kids, we used to read a Gita Sar, basically Srimad Bhagavad Gita, when condensed into some points, some 10 points, which are very important points, are mentioned as Gita Sar. It's like a short brief, the best things from Gita. So as children, we used to read the Gita Sar, okay? And in the Gita Sar, they would explain what is the meaning of soul. So, of course, it was really nice, but it was also very scientific. And it did not match with the romanticism or the romantic explanation of lovers that has been spoon-fed to us via television, media, movies, novels. One of the lines that used to strike me really hard was, in Hindi I would say it and then I'll translate, that Atma na paida hoti hai na marti hai, which means the soul cannot be born, it cannot die. So these type of quotes, soul is immortal and our body is perishable and our soul never dies. That the world is perishable and whosoever comes to this world surely has to go one day. These are all practical things. And even when we were children, we did see people dying in front of us. It was not like we did not know what death is. Since childhood, they should be aware that people do die and people are born. And progress and development are the rules of this universe. Source is supreme. Desires come and go. So these are somebody would say these are spiritual words and statements. I beg to differ. They are very scientific, because once you start applying them in your life, you actually start feeling much better. Like one of the really beautiful lines was in Hindi, क्यों व्यर्थ चिंता करते हो, किससे व्यर्थ डरते हो, कौन तुम्हें मार सकता है, आत्मा ना पैदा होती है ना मरती है. So basically they're trying to say that why are you worried for no reason, and who are you scared of? Who can kill you? No one can kill you, because the soul is immortal. So you are only scared for the body, the death of the body, or you're scared for your identity, but actually no one can destroy you. But the problem is that when we are living a life, all of these things, all of these worries are a center of our life. So we keep attracting situations where we are constantly, you can say, loggerheads with people, with situations. We are fighting with people. We're trying to prove our existence. And all of this happens when you don't love yourself enough. So when most of the divine feminines, they have not loved themselves and they've lived like a puppet for a lot of years. So when they start breaking through, when they start breaking out of that mold of being a puppet, a lot of people, they start attacking them. A lot of things become difficult. Their own so-called loved ones walk away from them. They make them feel you're wrong, you're embarrassing us, what the hell are you doing? We don't want to be with you. and they punish you by leaving you alone all the way. So you feel like I must have done something wrong. So by the time you feel that you are okay to be on your own by yourself, that's when you face other challenges. So a lot of such things, and then you are like, I should never even step out in the morning. I should just stay at my place. Because every time I step out, every time I try to do something fun and something interesting, people they are so mean to me. But that is the time you should actually break free. And even if these bad situations happen to you, the next morning you should get up again and go out and do your things. Because as a soul, you are free. You are free, complete, whole, divine, and all the amazing things apply to you. Because what I really liked, as a child to see in my grandfather was that he was not clingy. He was not upset. He was very happy. He was very relaxed, and he had a lot of things of his to do. He would wake up really early in the morning, then he would go to read the newspaper at a library, and many a times I would go to the library with him. He would meet a lot of his friends. Even at that age, he had many of these, old men who were his friends, and they would talk about current affairs, and then he would come back, do his prayers very intense prayers for at least an hour or two, and then he would eat like heavy breakfast. And he was a very, very well learned guy, and if I'm a writer today, I think it's because of him, because he was a double masters in English. So I personally feel that children should always have some kind of an elder, these type of elders who not only teach them literature, but they also teach them skills. So he would make me help him assist in his writing. He would make me translate whatever he would write in English. He would make me translate it in Hindi. So, and he was writing a book on life. So he never could complete that book. He passed over, and I do hope to complete his book someday because I was his assistant. He was never short of anything, and he would always have his own money, always have his own thing going on. So this was something very interesting, and I realized that maybe the reason why he was always happy till the end, like there were diseases, like all old people have diseases, and he lived like more than 90 years of age. So all old people go through those diseases, problems that old age come with. But there was never a day when he would not be satisfied and content with his life. I saw him really getting like very old and very dilapidated towards the end. But I never saw him complaining, cribbing, cursing, anyone or anybody. So this is the type of person I could feel that maybe one should be like this to have a happy life or to have a happy wife. Because if you are happy, you will remain happy. You will not get affected by the problems that happen in life. And one of the things that don't match with the soulmate theory, which, what he told me about soulmates and what I saw in his lifestyle is very different from what we see in the movies, or in the what the reptilians, extraterrestrials have shared with us. Now, Gita speaks about soul and life of a human being in a very interesting way. Gita would tell you that whatever happened was good, whatever is happening is good, and whatever will happen will also be good. What have you parted with that makes you cry? So basically this is a very intense, deep question. In Hindi it says, "Tumhara kya gaya jo tum rote ho?" So in English it means, what have you parted with that makes you cry? Which means, what have you really, because whatever you are given on planet Earth, it is given on planet Earth only. You did not carry it from your previous life. You did not carry it from anywhere. So if you lose something like a mobile phone or a car or some business, some money or some loved one, their idea of telling you is that as a soul, you never came with these things to planet Earth. These things were given to you here for a limited period of time. So why are you crying? Why are you upset? Why are you sad? You haven't lost anything. This also means that as a soul, you are absolutely baggage free. Like you have nothing on you. Nothing on you. You don't carry anything. You don't take anything. So this is the reason why when a person is born and when a person dies, When they're born totally naked. They don't have anything on them. And when they're dying, it's the same thing. The only thing is when a child is born, he's crying and, howling in pain. But when an adult dies or when a grown-up old person dies, other people are crying. It's the opposite, right? What did you bring with you that you have lost? So what have you parted with that makes you cry, and what did you bring with you that you have lost? What did you create which is now destroyed? So now this is also another important question, that what do we create actually which we feel is destroyed? Because whatever we create is being given to us by nature, because we are 5 elements, and from the body only we create. If we create a child, or if we create something from our own hands, like we make a painting, or we make a like a furniture piece, or we create a gadget, or whatever, we make something. So they are saying that you did not do it. It's been done by universe only. So you did not create it. So thus why are you upset if it gets destroyed? Then the next line is, what have you taken? You have taken only whatever you have taken, you have taken only from here, and whatever was given only from here. And then the most deep line which I find is, what is yours today was someone else's yesterday and will be someone else's tomorrow. And it closes with, change is the law of the universe. So, when you get programmed on planet Earth to live a sansaric life or to live a worldly life, you are told completely opposite of these lines. Completely opposite. They will teach you I, me, mine. They will teach you, you made it, I made it, it's all mine. Everything, there's so much attachment, there's so much craving, there is so much of aversion towards anyone who makes you feel insecure, or towards any situation that makes you feel scared. So their point is, as in the point that Gita is trying to prove to us all, is that as a soul, these are the few things that you must remember and you must know. If something is taken away from you, you have to accept it. If something is given to you, you have to accept it. And change is the law of the universe. You have to keep changing, and every day you have to change. And in ascension journey, it so happens that every day something happens that changes your perspective. Technically, there is no such thing as together forever. Okay, if you think about it, even a husband-wife, like the bestest couple, and that's the reason why I spoke about my grandfather, to give you an example. From a child's perspective, I think, like from whatever I have grown up in, I think they were really good. Even though I did not see my grandmother, but the way he respected her even after she was gone, and the way he talked about her or thought about her was always so beautiful. It was so endearing. It was so profound. So even if someone has been in a relationship with such a man or such a woman, even they get separated. And this is what he was trying to tell me, that even though we got separated bodily, but I am sure she's going to meet me as a soul. And I will also become a soul. So I would ask him that, why are you saying this, grandfather? Why would you become a soul? Like, you are my grandfather, isn't it? He would say, no, this is just my body. What you see in front of you is just my body. One fine day, this body I will leave, and then I will go back to becoming a soul. So, these are very important things for us to understand. Maybe as children we understand these things. Then we should look at the 3 main couples of twin flame journey. Couples as in gods and goddesses, and these are the 3 gods and goddesses who reached the twin flame union while being on planet Earth, because it's very difficult to get into 5D union on planet Earth. Let me tell you that. Not everyone gets 5D union also. I know so many people on the internet are saying that you can get into union, but people who reach the final stages, only they can reach union. And many of the people are trapped in the twin flame runner chaser dynamic for a very long time. Now, of course, this is the age of ascension. This is the time of ascension. So some people will get the knowledge a little faster, depending on how much suffering they've been to and how open they are to, to surrender. The more you are difficult in surrendering, the more ego you have, the the difficulties will keep on increasing. You drop your ego, you just take the lesson. In any bad situation, there is always a lesson. And nothing can go worse, nothing can go horribly wrong, nothing. Everything has a solution. Trust me on this. Everything, every situation, every bad situation has a solution. But that solution comes to you the fastest when you surrender, when you tell God that, look, I cannot do this alone. Please, you have to be with me here. You have to help me out. It's very painful. It's very difficult. I'm very scared. Okay, fine. I have meditated a lot. I have done a lot of many things, but all my knowledge, it's not helping me at this point in time. I am feeling like a scared child. So please hold me, Divine Mother, Divine Father. I need you right now. These are the things you got to say with a pure heart. And you can only say these type of things with a pure heart when you have actually reached that purity. When you've actually felt that way. So let's understand from the perspective of three gods and goddesses, our ultimate gurus. Ultimatest guru is Ram and Sita, obviously. Ram is our guru. In Twin Flame Journey, Ram can take us to 5D union immediately. But they showed people three types of lifestyles. One is Shiva and Shakti. Shiva and Parvati actually. So Shiva was first married to Sati. And Sati being a goddess, and because Shiva did like major penance when he missed her. Major penance. So someone has to love you so unconditionally. For her, it was simply that her father did not respect Shiva. That's it. Her father was very disrespectful towards her, the man she loved. And she said that in this life, I am born to a father who is so disrespectful to the only person I love. I love Shiva unconditionally. Shiva is my ultimate love. And you cannot even understand that much. You keep making fun of him. You keep disrespecting him. You keep finding ways to hurt him and me. Because if you disrespect him, how will I feel as your daughter? The father just did not budge. He did not understand what the daughter was going through. And her thing was that next life, I will come back to my Shiva. But next time, I will come through another father. A father who will not treat my husband like this. My father will accept him the way he is. No one should change him. Why should he change? He will never change. Why should he change? He's perfect. He's fine. At least he's authentic. He's not fake like all the other people. So her love was so pure, and Shiva was so much in pain when she was gone. And she was a divine goddess. She just perished into a divine fire. She created a fire with her own energy, and she jumped into that fire, and then that's it. Shakti just did not want to exist in the world where the parents do not understand the true love of their own child, and they mock the child and they torture the child so much. So she wasn't happy, with how the world was looking at love at that time. And then Shiva did so much meditation. He went so deep, that after a few years, Parvati was born. And this is the reason why there is an age gap in Shiva and Parvati, because Parvati was born after some time, So then, as a child, Parvati was in love with Shiva. She could not see anything beyond Shiva. Constantly she would just talk about Shiva. I want to marry Shiva. I want to be with Shiva. So this is one couple, because you have to understand why am I speaking about them. If you look at Shiv Shakti, everyone says that Shiv Shakti had a perfect union. In India, we pray to the genitals of Lord Shiva and Shakti. So Shiv Ling is basically the genital of the male, and it is surrounded by the yoni. Yoni means the genital of the feminine. So the divine masculine and divine feminine in perfect union, that in a worldly way or otherwise also in spiritual and worldly way, they are both in union. But here comes the interesting part. Even after all of this, such a huge runner-chaser dynamic. This is such a long, it took them so many years to come back. It took her so many years to come back as Parvati to Shiva, right? And after that, what he did, he could not recognize her. He rejected her. He not only rejected her, but could not even recognize that she is Sati indeed. He was like, no, you cannot be Sati. Sati is my wife, and she perished herself into fire. You can't be her. And she's like, no, I am Sati. I am Parvati. I came back. I'm your wife. And he was like, no, 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 you can't be. So even the recognition stage, the first stage of recognition, which people underestimate so much, imagine how much importance it has. So one person could recognize, but the other could not. And later on, after getting rejected, Parvati was like, no, now I'm not gonna chase him. I have chased him so much. I'm done with all this chasing. Now I'll go and I will also find my inner joy. So they were a married couple, okay? But then people think that after Shiva and Parvati got married, everything was hunky-dory. No. Shiva again ran away. He went away, then he meditated alone for many years in the Himalayas. And that was the time when Parvati was all by herself. And this is also the time when she created Ganesh. She did not give birth to Ganesh biologically, she created him. And so there are many stories. If you read the Shiv Puran, you will find out that there were many times when he would go away. But why they need to go away? Because every divine feminine and every divine masculine needs to understand that you need to have your own life. And not from the perspective of masculine as such, it is actually for the feminine. So each time Shiva would go away, and this is after marriage, imagine after having children, he would go away. Each time he would go away, Parvati would then realize that now I need to go deeper within myself, because maybe once again I am putting him on the pedestal and I'm looking at him all the time constantly, and I'm not doing what I'm supposed to do. Where is my inner work? I'm not doing any inner work. He's doing inner work. He's enjoying inner work. People start enjoying inner work after the illumination. Before that, they don't understand. Even surrender, you understand, that inner work is fun. But surrender doesn't happen in one day, so it takes time gradually. But inner work and ascension, 5D union, all of this is a very blissful place to be in. So Shiva also wanted to be in that bliss. He did not want to be in any energy which would make him feel that Parvati is constantly focused on him. So he would go away, and then she would do her own thing, and then he would come back again. When he would feel, and they did this many times, because even when he rejected her initially, at that time also, she did her inner work and he had no option but to come back to her and propose to her and marry her. Now, we see Ram and Sita now. Ram and Sita were also a married couple, but they did not go through this type of separation that Shiv, Sati, Parvati story has. Ram and Sita had an earthly life, and even they went into separation many times. But Sita was very mission oriented, and so was Ram. So both of them were perfect divine masculine and feminine for each other, because both of them were so mission oriented. Both of them were all about the mission. Yes, we love each other, we are together, we are married, we have children, we are married and we have children, and we have unconditional love and respect for each other, but we have our mission work, because mission work makes a person the happiest actually. And then we have Radha and Krishna, who never got married, but they always maintained that love that they had for one another without saying it. So their love was so strong that even though they never, said it really loud that I love Radha and I love Krishna, it was the people who started seeing them together. If someone would go to meet Radha, they would see Krishna sitting next to her. And in technical, reality, he is not there. Bodily, he is not there. Or they would look at Krishna and they would see Radha. Or they would see Radha. And so people started seeing these mystical revelations, these mystical experiences. And they were stunned by this type of love. So they started praying them together in India. Even though Radha got married to someone else and Krishna got married to someone else, but they are till date, they are kept together in every temple, every Sanatan Dharam temple. Radha and Krishna are together, just like Ram and Sita and just like Shiva and Parvati. They are given the same amount of respect as a couple. So this is the power of unconditional love, because in unconditional love, what Radha and Krishna explain to people is that we don't even need to be bodily together. Physically, we are not with each other. We are not next to each other. But we feel so much love for each other that there is no need to be next to each other. So there are these 3 to 4 types of unions. Now, if you look at Vishnu and Lakshmi also, because Vishnu and Lakshmi are the ultimate, you can say couple. When you are in Vaikunt, and Vaikunt is a dimension where there is no suffering, no pain, nothing. You're always relaxed, always in bliss, always with source. Source, it's the dimension of source basically. So even Lakshmi and Vishnu are not always supposed to be together. So each time Vishnu comes to earth, Lakshmi has to come with him in some form or the other. So they also experience this separation, they also experience coming together, then they experience working on themselves individually. They cannot work on themselves together. They have to work on themselves individually, revive their powers, do their mission work. And once the mission is done, then only they come back and they meet in Vaikunt. So what is this together forever actually? Like why is this together forever being sold like hot candy to people, like hot cakes to people? And people are so stupid. People are thinking, oh, we are always going to be stuck to each other. Now, there's another reason why this concept is misunderstood is because some of the people think that masculine and feminine are actually different. But they are not. The higher you go in this journey, the higher you work, you'll actually realize that the masculine and you are literally the same. So when you are same, what do you mean by together forever? Then you are actually together forever because you are the same, you are one. How can one be separated from another? Because there is no division, there is no separation. So these are the concepts that you understand not by just talks, but you actually understand. In fact, you cannot even talk about it. It's not easy to talk about these things unless you actually understand it by experience. So when you are one singular individual, because as a soul, you are clubbed with everything. You are one with everyone. Even if they are triggering you or even if they are not triggering you, whatever it is, even if you see different people in front of you, but you're actually one, one soul. That's why they say source. We are all source. But who is this person on planet Earth who actually pushes you to reach this place of unity? Is that one person. And after you meet that one person, you don't want to be with anyone because that person is a perfect mirror for you. Till the time they will trigger you, you have to keep working. Like, okay, today they are triggering me with this, tomorrow they are going to trigger me with this. And there comes a time when the triggers become less and less and less. They reduce. And then you realize that, my mission is the most important thing on this planet. And you also feel very comfortable when you see each other doing their own thing. You don't want to cling on to them. You don't want to know what are you doing, where are you going, what are you eating. Did you eat your food? Did you take your pills? Did you take your this? Did you take your that? All these type of annoying questions you don't want to ask. Both of the people, and I'll tell you this because again, feminine is the Shakti. Please never forget this. Feminine is the powerhouse. Even the masculine, you feel if the masculine is running away. If you are in that zone, that he's running away from me, we are not together, that means the feminine is not in her complete Shakti. And Shakti can only give power to the masculine, no one else. Every soul has, this is a very scientific journey. Spiritual, yes, because we are spirits, but spirit science is the most advanced form of science. There is no other science more advanced than this. So don't get stuck with the useless materialistic things that people talk about. The physical connection is not that important. The mental connection is very blissful. It's the one that leads you to the truth. And not everyone is so lucky to get it. So how will you get it? You can't get it by thinking that you can get it. You can only get it by thinking that Source will give it to me. Ram and Sita will give it to me. You have to ask them. You have to tell them that please give it to me. I don't want to feel this separation all the time. I don't want to feel so sad. I don't want to feel like what am I doing here all the time, complaining, getting affected by other people. Like you will get affected by people. It doesn't happen in one day, but you keep learning. Like every day, say 1 week something doesn't happen. 15 days, everything is fine. And then you will also start thinking nothing has happened as such, like nothing so big. Small little things will happen and every day you will have some kind of epiphany. That is what illumination is all about. Illumination is like lighting your entire being. You're lit up. You're like, whoa, oh my God, I am lit up. I am literally lit up right now. So that will happen. But say something difficult happens, how long will you carry it with you? The more you carry it with you, the more importance you give to it, the more you think about it. And it's not wrong about thinking about it. You can think about it with love and affection also, like I forgive this person, I do this, I do that, whatever. But if it is worrying you, because worry is fear, worry is the opposite of love, right? So if you're worrying about it, you're scared, you're insecure, you're not able to believe that God is there, God will take care of everything, don't worry, just chill, just relax, just be present, that's it. No matter how difficult the situation is, just be present and leave it to God. They'll fix it. They can fix anything. You know, when you have that, and then when the day is over, or when that situation has already passed, and you see that it no longer has that type of impact that it had, you know, when it was like when the earthquake, the epicenter of the earthquake, they say is the strongest place where the, you know, earthquake is affecting. So every reaction, every emotion, every pain, every suffering has an epicenter. When you're in that epicenter, it feels everything is shaking, nothing is stable. But when you step out, when you look at it as an observer and you see, okay, what is this supposed to teach me? You realize that the epicenter is no longer so shaky. In fact, the epicenter is not even there. It's all gone. It's all plain. It's normal. It's fine now, you know. So please don't get trapped with Together Forever that is taught in 3D reality, and look at the Together Forever, the soul's journey, the soul's joy, the soul's bliss of being on planet Earth. Why are they on planet Earth? Why so many souls are here? Illumination, when one soul illuminates, then two, then three, then four, so many souls illuminating, they will actually light up the world. So on that note, I would be closing this channeling session here. Thank you so much for being here with me. You're lovely, you're beautiful, you're amazing, you're divine, you're pure, you're complete, you're whole, you don't need anything, you have everything. You got everything. One love and peace out.